Bonjour, bonjour. Hello, everybody. Hope you are all doing well. We are here, and of course, my favorite place in the whole world, filming this on Wednesday, which is the last day. We can easily get over here, but I have something very special for you, so it's all going to be about the apartments that are known as, Louis says, the so-called apartments of Napoleon III. They weren't ever, he never used them. It is, first and foremost, it was a Cafe Richelieu. It's given the name of the apartments of Napoleon III, basically an homage to him because he built this whole wing. And also it's in the style of Napoleon III, which is basically the style of Louis XIV and Louis XV together on steroids, is basically what we have here. But we're gonna go through here. In the very first rooms, they've added some new signage. It just reopened about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think June 21st was the first day it was open to the public. And you also have this great little map. I'm desperately waiting for these rooms on this side to open. They have been closed since long before COVID. But just a little background itself on the apartments in this part of the Louvre. So the rest of the Louvre was inaugurated on August 15th, 1857, including the Richelieu wing and of course over the Denon. And then that's when they decided to do the apartments. So they wanted to have, because it's connected to the Tuileries, which is where the Emperor Napoleon III lived, they wanted to have a place for the Ministry of State to be close. And part of their offices were located in the Tuileries, but then they decided to put them over here. So they redid these rooms, and there's a very drastic difference in style. So these first rooms that you see here are much more subdued. Beautiful painted ceilings. You have the different paintings representing, you have music and florals. Very beautiful. It's a little dark in here. But when they've redone this, they've also added in these great information plaques. This is the part of the Louvre that you cannot get into, that I haven't been able to get into for years. Literally like probably 2017, 2018. No sign. Even the people that I know very high up in the Louvre don't even know when they're supposed to be opened. And I would love to get in there because that, oh, dying. But you see here, let me show you this little here. So here's Napoleon III in this painting, and next to him is Visconti, who's the gentleman, just the Napoleon's there in the hat, Napoleon III, and this is when they were laying their first stone for building the Richelieu wing. And you see behind you, that building is actually the Tuileries, the Palais de Tuileries, because you see the carousel right there. But this is when the Minister of Finance, the Ministry of Finance moved in here in 1871, which I'll tell you about. But here you can see what's in pink is the entire Richelieu wing. So let's go. I'll share some of this with you. I hope you're excited. I've literally spent so many hours on doing research on this, which is something I always wanted to do. And I have one of those extra large moleskins, so it's massive, and it's over 120 pages of research I did on this, and I really had a hard time trying to narrow down what I was going to share. So let's go and check out this next room. So this kind of first room, even though the last one was the minister's drawing room, and you have this one and then a smaller one on the other side. And these were all, they went back and forth because different ministers would go in. It's kind of like, the White House in the US, where they change president and the president gets to decide what it looks like, and it's decorated in certain rooms. And it was kind of the same here. So you have different ministers. Ministers would also, there was different ministers that used these as their private apartments. And then there was ones that they gave them to their wife, and they would be downstairs. Because at this time when this was built, right now we have 3 floors in the Richelieu wing, because when it was completely changed and to fit in with the rest of the museum, which is 3 floors, they had to basically take, not this section, but right past where we started, take that down to basically just the walls. They got rid of every floor because it was 7 levels with the mezzanines, and moved it down to just the 3. And so you had the mezzanines below us, you had the grand staircase, which we'll go through. We'll see it 2 different views. And that's what they were using for the apartment. So these rooms give a little bit, you know, you've got some of the red in here, but this fireplace is really beautiful. And this fireplace was a copy of the one that's at Versailles in the bedroom of the Dauphin. And so you have an Atlas. Beautiful in bronze. And everything in here, look at Napoleon. Everything in here has been restored. And it's just, I mean, it was really dirty before. The last big restoration was in 2017, and I think that was the last time they cleaned it. But they also have these beautiful paintings, which I'm hoping they bring back some of the informational plaques. Not as many of the paintings came back, but these are all really beautiful. Blaise Disconfet, and he did these mimicking a lot of the things used in still lifes that are actually in the Apollo Gallery. But look at these. All of these chandeliers are like, oh, just so beautifully cleaned. And then, of course, this gorgeous furniture. We don't have a lot of information on the furniture because they didn't, a lot of those notes, they just didn't, either they took them and they didn't save them, or something happened along the way, but we don't have a lot of those notes. So there's a lot of, it could be this person, could be that person, but all of the draperies and everything that you see, these beautiful, and they get even, we're just like, we get fancier as we go. A lot of these are from the 1970s, and they have been relined. So you still have a lot of the original fabric, but look at those gorgeous tie backs. And again, it's first thing in the morning, the Louvre is opened, but everybody goes straight to the Mona Lisa. And here we have the grand staircase, and we're gonna come back from the other side too, so I'll show you some more. But you have these, most of the art that you see in here, the sculptures and the paintings, and there's not a lot of it. These all were original to it being in the ministry, and so they've kept it all here. And this part has only been part of the Louvre since 1993. Is when this opened, so not very long ago. These urns are pretty. This huge Medici vase kind of shaped urns that are with the lighting. These are all done by Auguste Luchon. And Hector Louvre, it was the architect, and he took over when Visconti died unexpectedly, December 28th, 1873. And he took over, and he did this, 1853, and he is the one who took over. And he kind of cut a lot of corners. So they used, like, instead of using iron for like the railings and for the chandeliers, they kind of used not like just metal and then coating it and electroplating it. So they didn't use really good quality, but I love this one. Look at just the details on the doors. This room used to be filled with a lot of the smaller collection of Héritier, who was the president right after Napoleon III. There's just a lot of really great information on here that they have. And this was the boudoir. And you can see she looks she's Diana, because she's got the crescent moon there. But really beautiful. Another really fun thing about this space is that it gives you an idea of what the Tuileries look like, which is no longer here. But this is actually all fabric too, so you can see that it's fabric and all beautifully cleaned and restored. Look at the colors on that. So pretty. Now let's get to the fancier section. So we have this is the introductory room. Much different, very dark. This beautiful carved wood by Nelly. He just said no name, just one name. And this gorgeous all marble heater by René Langlois. And these are really gorgeous. These are the same kind that they have at my cousin's chateau. But what's really amazing about this room, first of all, it's very clean now. But when you see this table, and the table most likely is from Ramillon, is the furniture maker, and then Nelly designed the walls. And who knows? It's like the chicken and egg, which came first, because you have all these urns and everything, these gorgeous urns and flowers. But they actually, if you look at the carving on the wall, and this is waxed walnut. It's the same. So here's this, you see that there. And then if you look on the furniture, you have the same figures on there. The chairs, the furniture, everything in here, because again, we're post-revolution, so the furniture and everything in here is original, but all of the fabrics were replaced in the 1970s. And this is the beautiful entrance gallery. Look at these. And you have the ceiling here. But if you look at the ceiling, beautiful rosette there. And you come back down. And we look at the carpet. The carpet reflects the ceiling. This is not the original carpet, but it is a copy of it. And the original carpet was done by Brocqueret, and so they created this carpet, so luckily they copied it. And then you have these beautiful paintings on the wall by Charles Daubigny, and it's you have on one side the herons, and then on the other side the stags. And he does also paintings in the large dining room. But just look at that. And again, the sculptures that are in here are original to when it was the ministry. So a lot of what we see today was enhanced for the ministry in 1871. The Ministry of Finance moved in here because their building was destroyed in the Commune, just right down on Rue de Rivoli. But even look above the door, you have all these other paintings. Most of the decor is restricted to the walls, as just painted into the walls. But look at that rosette, and if you look underneath it, you see kind of the lattice behind it. And then also here. Okay, we're gonna move on to the really good stuff. And here's another small room of the original ministry. Let's go check it out. I think the two most stunning rooms is this one, and of course the next one. But this was the family room, so this was kind of almost the lead-in between the two styles. But this was the family room, and it is pretty breathtaking. Again, fabric on the wall. So it's the same fabric that's in the curtains. So it's really the only room that has this many paintings. The only paintings that are hanging on the wall are also in the theater. But most of the furniture in here is original, except for these chairs. The chairs and the settee. The chairs and the settee actually date back to 1793, and they are done from paintings by Boucher. So you have those little settees back there. But the piano and the tables are all original to what was in this room. The ceiling itself, you have a lot of really monochromatic paintings in here. So you had the brown of the ceiling and the last one, and then you also have these that are all blue. And these are done by Émile Levy. And up there you have the sun as Apollo, and then the moon as Diane. And then around the side, these all are all the different seasons. So this is air. And on this side we have fire. And then on the north is earth. And this water. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? What really also I love about here, which you'll see a lot in the next two rooms, is that background. So let me see if I could get in there. So you can see the way that they painted kind of around. Just the details in this space is amazing. And look at the corner urns. So he also kind of cut corners because normally it's would be stucco. And he used what was actually basically kind of a cardboard plaster with it that they would mold and put these pieces up there. So again, not the greatest use of materials, but they were on a tight deadline and he kind of wanted to show off to the emperor that he was able to do it under budget. These paintings on the doors are all done by Chauverin. You see him over here on this door too. That painting that's up there was done by Adolphe Viollet-le-Duc, the son of Eugène, who did all of the work, of course, on Notre Dame. Isn't that beautiful? Look how shiny the table is. I just realized I did not show you the ceiling. So I'm gonna go back and record that really quickly. All right, here we have the creme de la creme. So this is the Grand Salon. The Grand Salon is filled with amazing things all up on the wall. So I'm going to share that with you first. So the wall itself, look at this. And there's some really cool hidden things that I was actually talking to somebody recently that knows a lot about the Louvre, and they didn't realize that this was here. But first and foremost, you cannot miss this amazing chandelier. It is of 180 bulbs. The other ones have 60, but look at this thing, and it is controlled from the top so they could lower it down. And then you go around the ceiling. So in the very center of the ceiling, this was all done by Charles Raphael Marchal, and he painted this. He was very unknown at the time. They actually were not allowed to use major artists, so you couldn't use Ingres Delacroix because it was being paid for by the state, and so the state had to use kind of more unknown artists. But he painted this, and it is pretty amazing. And you have Empress Eugenie and Napoleon right there. It's really hard to get this because I don't want to fall over. But you have them right there in the throne, and this whole entire painting is filled with things that are basically to their greatness. So right there you have Minerva holding a victory in her hand, and then you have Hercules, and they are supposed to resemble wisdom and force, kind of two of his attributes. And then down over here you have Mars and Neptune, and they're driving out this woman that's wearing one of the Couronne Murale. And then down below you have all these other allegories that are bringing things to the Emperor Empress. And then that building right there, you have right there is the Richelieu wing. So they're just bringing this, and there's also a plan of what the project looked like, bringing that to them, basically like, here's to all these amazing things you did. This corner features different people representing countries of the world because of the Universal Exhibition, and so they're bringing that here to show that, you know, these are all the great things we make in our countries and our lands. And then you have on the top side, which is a little harder to see, all of these little figures. These putis are called, or genies, and Hopefully you don't have to like turn your whole head around. It is really difficult to get this. But you have up there where it is, you see Notre Dame. You have Val de Grace. You have a lot of things that the emperor had done. So things that he had restored, things that he had built. You have the opera, the Madeleine, all of these things that he had worked on. And then that big kind of ribbon going around has about 30 different names of battles and years that he had taken a part of. But if you look at this, it's really amazing how these are done. Because if you look kind of closely in there, it looks like you have a whole balustrade. So they painted this in so it looks like the ceiling is even deeper. Marichal, when he created this, he was in Metz and he pretty much stayed there while he did it. Then he would send pieces here and they actually glued it to the ceiling. But it's amazing. But the other things that I love in this room, and one thing that drives me crazy is that I cannot find an image of what this fourth one looks like. So you have, I'm just going to kind of go around the room instead of running back and forth. Over here in this corner, it represents painting. So you see there, you see that medallion that has Raphael painted on there, and above it you have the palette and everything about painting. And then those two medallions that were painted, again, kind of monochromatically, those are supposed to actually represent, it's more like a cameo or like a translucent stone. And those are really fantastic. You have some, again, some étoiles and some carities up here going all the way around the room. Originally, they were to have those kind of around a oval frame that was going to then have paintings in it. And I'll zoom in on some of these amazing details in the back of it. This side, so you have 3 arches, and the 3 semicircles, they call them, are dedicated, I have to change my hand here, are dedicated to the 3, it should be 4 rulers that did the most. So this one is Catherine de Medici. She is there with Philippe de Lorme, who was the architect, and that what she's pointing at there is the Palais des Tuileries. And so each one of these is kind of painted the same. On the left there, just in that his little fancy short outfit, is Jean Goujon, and he is there with also Germain Pilon, and the what she had then created that's here in the Louvre to hold the heart of her and Henry II. This side here is sculpture. So you have there in the center, you have the Belvedere torso, and then the 2 what are imitation sardonyx. It's also, both of those are about architecture. We'll go over to the other corner here, but again, the furniture in here is all original, just the fabric's been changed. This is a 3-seated, and this is called the Indiscreet. They used to have the 2-seated ones, and those aren't here. The Louvre have not updated their website where you could go and click on any room and it'll tell you everything in the room. I probably spent about a day going and trying to find everything on the Louvre website for the furniture and everything. You have these beautiful lyre back, delicate chairs. And of course the armchairs, there's more than 50 armchairs in here. I really could use that as my desk chair. Maybe put some wheels on it. These gorgeous corner torchairs. But just look at the details on everything. I mean, the painted, you've got music, because this room is the Grand Salon. And so this was used by the minister to do big lavish events, especially when it became the Ministry of Finance. And so, but Louvre, which one thing that he did is he really loved doing these kind of convertible rooms. So this room could change into a theater. So you could take all the furniture out here, you could put 11 rows of chairs, seat 245 people, and then here on this side where you have the curtain, they could use that on the other side and set up a little stage and have a stage in there. So everybody could sit in here and watch the theater. Up above here was the musician's balcony. And that is where, supposedly far back behind there, is another one of these semicircle paintings dedicated to Louis the 14th. And I cannot find anything anywhere. There is no picture of it, nothing that the artist did. I cannot find anything, and it's really making me crazy. On this corner here, you have music. So you have all the musical instruments. But look at this, let me zoom in on here and just see like how amazing this is. Like, it's just every single detail. And when you come to the Louvre, I hope that maybe even just come, you know, when you come one time to look at the art and then come another time just to do nothing but look up. Here you have, this is all imitation marble. There's no marble in here. They just painted it to look like marble. But even also here you have up above, check this out, like it's just, I mean, they did this in stucco, well, carton pierre, but look at that, look at the details. And the ties and everything is just amazing. The one thing as far as the fabric is concerned, that corner, which I'll show you a little closer on the other side, that corner, I think they're cornices, those are original. So those do go back to the 1860s. So on this side, up here, another one of my favorites, we have Francois Premier. Francois Premier is there, and he's the one that kind of started the whole project of the Louvre and what it looks like today. He's the one that tore down the medieval and started to build the palace that we know, so he's got that behind him. Also next to him, you have Jean Goujon, who has his hand on the caryatide, and a lot of the figures that are in this one are also in the ones of Catherine, because she built the Tuileries after her death of her husband, Henry II, who is actually in this. There on the right side of Francois, so our left, you see Henry II there, and then Diane de Poitiers is back there, which is funny because they put Diane there, and then Catherine's over on the other side. But look closely at this thing. This is what I think is just about one of the coolest things ever. So you have this piece that's down above the mirror, in very Louis XIV style. But if you look closely, so you have the N of Napoleon. And the N, when you see the N in Paris, it pretty much is Napoleon III, but he had it to mention, you know, for he and his uncle. But look at that piece above it. Okay, so that on the left is the hand of justice. The hand of justice, and then on the right is the scepter of Charlemagne, and both of those things are here in the Louvre, very close to this room. And in the center there, that crown is the crown of Empress Eugenie, and that is also here in the Louvre. And when I realized that, I just about freaked out, because I love that you could connect all those things, and I love that they put those together. At the top of these columns, the capitals are more Corinthian style, and then it has the N in there, of course, and again the little crown. But look at this great reflection in the mirror. And then also on top of here you have a clock, and this clock was done by Charles Crozier, and this clock used to actually be in the Tuileries, and it's kind of hard to see, but I will put on my website, because the episode of the podcast that comes out tomorrow is going to be about this room. So I'll give you all the details and put pictures on my website. But you see like the two little genies there, and they're holding up a little plaque of Louis XIV. So I hope you come here and never look at this room the same again. You have, I hate to say this, those are fake, but I'm okay with this. And you have this great couch, completely custom made for here. So I could just come in here. I could live in here. And then on this side, we have another favorite, Henri IV. So Henry IV. And he is showing the Bordelot, is what it was called, which now we know is the Grand Gallery. And around him, he is presenting it to his buddy, Sully, which is what that whole back center section of the Louvre is named after. And then also You have figures that represents the Catholics and the Protestants, because he was supposed to be the one, the great uniter of everybody. He was originally a Protestant. Then he said his famous quote was, "Paris was worth a mass," and he then became a Catholic. But right above the door we have Apollo, who's of course the sun god, who's also the god of music. But look at again those details on these pieces. Oh, and I didn't show you the other corner. Isn't it just, oh, love it. So happy when they reopen this. And I don't usually, it is early in the morning, and so everybody's on the other side. But I think that even in the midday, there's not a lot of people here. I don't think they realize it's reopened, or maybe people bringing tour groups don't realize it's reopened, so use that to our advantage. Then this side, we have architecture. So the medallions represent architecture, and then the carving in the middle, you see a column with an Ionic capital, and some more caryatides and atlas. But look at that. Isn't it just beyond stunning? So beautiful. All right, let's check out the theater. Right, before we go into the theater, which we are, this little suite room on the side, and it walks out. You could go out here, out to the balcony overlooking, and this is just the little terrace drawing room. Another great chandelier, but the painting is painted like the sky. The ceiling is painted like the sky, but we can't see it. So I thought about if it were the guards I see in here all the time, which they're not, I was going to ask them if they'd let me pop in there really quickly, but I don't know. But look at the close-up of these. Look at this. This is just, these are getting really threadbare and kind of look really bad. And actually that tie back still has some problems, but look at just the hardware and the details on these. Oh, just love it. But this is a theater, so again, you could pull back the curtain and they could set up a stage in here. But they could also have gatherings in here. And again, another amazing ceiling. So the ceiling is all about seasons and flowers. You just have a bunch of figures, women. You have these three women below, and they're captives, and their wrists are tied back with vines. But look at let me zoom in on this. Look at that. See it again. I think that is, there's so many tiny details of this room, I think, that is just, all of these rooms, that is just so gorgeous. Corners. And again, lots and lots of flowers. The ceiling was done by Aubuchon, and then a lot of the painting in here on the wall was done by Laurent Jean. And again, you have the cardboard plaster, and that is beautiful. It's almost a trellis. But you also have, of course, two massive paintings representing Napoleon III and Empress Eugenie behind me. And Napoleon III, these ones are copies of ones that were in the Tuileries that were destroyed in the fire in 1871. These were done, original ones by Franz Winterhalter. And then they're two different artists that made these copies and put them in here. But there she is, and there's her crown right next to her. And then more, you have the indiscreets. Just think about the secrets that were shared on there. And here's the back of the curtain. And I love it. They usually have this open. So let's see if we can see. There's a giant balloon out there. Can you see that? They're getting ready to put the Olympic cauldron in there, which is where the flame will go. They painted these doors representing, you have this one representing music. But look at how gorgeous all of the carved elements that are on here. The Voisin, which is that area, but look at the detail. Like you have the sculpture on top of that painted. And then we go into the small dining room, and the small dining room could be opened up and connected to the larger one. And this is, again, a lot of imitation. The walls are painted to mark, to kind of match the boule marquetry is what it's called, which you have more like these little tables on the side are the actual real thing. Look at the details on that black, the column, the ionic. So they kind of painted the walls to match that. You have this trompe-l'oeil, and this was done by an artist named Errol, like heron, and he painted in a blue heron there as kind of his signature. But it's really beautiful, and what I really love about this, and I thought about this when I was at my art research library yesterday, is the ceiling is kind of like that, where it's the Byzantine domes, and then you have that here with the trellises. And when Richelieu, who was the Minister of State, when they opened and moved them into here, he had a lot of say in the decor, and these were supposed to be more terracotta looking, and he said, no, they should be painted stone. Again, you have the fake marble. But then it goes into the large dining room. And so here is the large dining room, which is, it can seat 42 people. Again, all the furniture is original. Daubigny, who did those two paintings that were in the introductory area, that was the beautiful red, first kind of red room. He did all of these in their hunting scenes. So these are all representing hunting that are painted on the wall and at the end, and I'll go to the side so you can see a little better. And then all the silver was by Christophe, who also did the electroplating. And this is all kind of supposed to look like beautiful cabinetry that's kind of more, has like a tortoise look to it. I wish that they've installed all these kind of shades, but look, you can see the Arc de Triomphe. I was really hoping they'd have that completely reopened so I could do a video for you before we get locked down, but it is not, so we'll do that afterwards. Again, it is about 10 o'clock now and it's still pretty quiet. All right, I'm going to show you the side. So just on the other side, and this actually is a hallway that would lead to the outside of the dining room, but it would also lead you to more offices. This little cute, sweet little staircase would lead you upstairs to where they kept the silver and the china. You still have mezzanines on this side, so if you are down below and you look up, you see these larger windows where we are. So the ones on this side, kind of up until if you look from right to left, those, the first, quite a few of them are part of the apartments, but then some of them, when you get down to like those last 2 or 3, if you look, there's actually a mezzanine in between there, and you'll see 2 offices, one on each of the mezzanine floors. But these cabinets open all the way up. So they could connect this is the back side of the small dining room. And then you have this great look into, and you can see the huge mural on the back there. Again, by Daubigny. It's a little morbid to have hunting scenes in a dining room, but that was quite the style of the Second Empire. And even going back to Louis XIV. but they're all, and you have these birds up high. But the ceiling has the sky, and I love that they have like the, you know, instead of the chandelier going into the ceiling, they kind of have those bowed vines that come down and cover it up. But all of the silver in here was used in the room as well by Christophe. Just the detail upon detail in this place is just gorgeous. But what's really fantastic about this is it does give you an idea of what the Tuileries look like. They could look right out this room, they could go out onto that balcony, they could look out there and look right at the Tuileries. Where we see that balloon, the Tuileries would go all the way across. So this does give you an idea about what the Tuileries look like. I found an amazing book about the Tuileries, the interior, at my Louvre library the other day. And now they're closed till October. I thought it was bad enough they were going to be closed through August, but October, mid-October at that. And then you look into the Cour Marly. That's my reflection. All right, now let's go check out the staircase. Show you the staircase. The other side and go down it is quite gorgeous. There used to be, years and years ago, a really beautiful carved, kind of ornate table here, but they've changed it out and put these things up. Nope. Isn't that gorgeous? And another marble heater. Give you a little walk right back through. Carved doorways. It's very strange how quiet it is. They're saying that this has actually been a huge loss financially for the city, having the Olympics, because so many people have decided not to come and the hotels are really down. And starting tomorrow, when they block off all the streets for 9 days, it's going to be very bad for businesses. I realize that I didn't do the ceiling of the introduction room, which I mentioned earlier, but because there was a group coming through, I tried to speed past them. So I'm gonna go back and do that. We'll start there and then I'll take you to the staircase. Give you another little taste. So here we have on this ceiling in the green dark room, that is the allegory of arts and science. All done again, kind of monochromatic brown colors. Look at it. So here's the opposite, the other corner of the Ministry escalier. You have 6 doors, including kind of fake doors. The ones here in the center are fake. You could open those, I guess, up to get, you know, some air in, but they don't obviously lead any place because they have the balcony there. I love these 2 paintings, and I remember when I first discovered these and looked at it, because that represents the Palais des Tuileries. And years ago, you know, before I went on deep rabbit holes, I didn't see a lot about the Tuileries, and so I love that they put that here. And because this was all done when the Tuileries was still there before it was burned down. And then this side, you have the Pavillon de Flore, and the Pavillon de Flore is the very end of the Denon wing. So that had been, that actually had been partially burnt, so they had to rebuild a lot of that under Napoleon III. These are, again, by Charles-François d'Aubigné, so a lot of the huge murals you have in here were all done by the same person. I love this. Look at how great, I love the crown up there at the top. You have the eagles, and then you go down and you have the little cookies. And again, this was done by Morlin. He sculpted it, and it was created and electroplated by Christophe. Same thing with the railing. And on the corners, you have the ends for Napoleon. And then they even above the doors. The stucco above the doors, and then check out the ceiling. Just the details on this. A lot of this had to be redone not that long after because he did use kind of shoddier products, just didn't last so long. So 1871, as I was saying, the Ministry of Finance, they were just down the street, down the Rue de Rivoli, and that building was completely burned. They had two buildings completely destroyed, and so this had kind of, the Ministry of State was they didn't have the Ministry of State anymore, so these rooms kind of sat here. So they moved the Ministry of Finance into these rooms, which they stayed until 1989, and that's when they were kicked out. So they could incorporate this into the museum. After the pyramid was finished, they worked on this side of the building. The gentleman had just become the Minister of Finance, wasn't down for that. He wanted to stay here, so he kind of delayed their departure for a year before they actually got out of here. But the Minister of State, Akiful, who moved in here, he was in here, but he was not here when they inaugurated in 1861. It was a different gentleman, not named Valoisky, and he was actually the illegitimate son of Napoleon Bonaparte. And if check out tomorrow the podcast and look at my website on Monday, because I'll put a picture of him because he's this spitting image. More beautiful sculptures. This is the young captive with Cupid. Just look at all of these. So they would come down here, and down here on this mezzanine levels is where they would have more of the ministry's office, and then actually has some of the apartments. And all these, the sculptures and everything. Harpin Cousseau is the one who did the doors and even helped sculpt the top. They used about 24 different actual artists to actually pull off the sculpture. And this leads right into the Court Marly. Like when we go back down the steps, you do have a sculpture of Mr. Napoleon III. Sitting here just waiting to see you. We're not sure who did this. It was created here in France, of course, about 1850. So when he was still in power, Louis Napoleon, when he named himself emperor. He was first president of France. Then he decided when that term was up, he didn't want to go anywhere. So look at this, I love coming down here and looking up. But how about I take you back upstairs and I will take you into the room and show you those two pieces that are used that you saw at the top of the mirror. I'll show you the Hand of Justice and the Charlemagne, the Scepter of Charlemagne. You also down here, that's in the center. I love that sculpture. It is of Psyche and Cupid, and this is he's sleeping, and this is when she is going in to look to see, you know, what he looks like, because he was coming into her bed every night. She didn't know what he looked like. And her sisters told her to go check him out, and put a lamp up against his head and see what his face looked like. And this is right before she's going to do that. And then he wakes up. He's startled and wakes up. Then on the wall behind him, you have 3 busts. And those 3 busts are of Louis Philippe, Charles X, and Louis XVIII. And then you have Napoleon III. So these are kind of the last 4 rulers of France. Here comes all the groups. But let's pop back upstairs and back through the rooms, and then I will show you 2 of those items that are also, you know, these are still offices. One day I was walking up here and the door was open a little, and I tried to catch a peek. Look at these, how gorgeous these are. A little bit more subdued than the other doors, but oh, I can hear them talking in there. Should I knock on the door? All right, let's go check it out. Here's this small little antechamber. There is a room on the other side of this. Never been open to the public though. But in the original layout of the apartments, there was one there. Then we're kind of back where we started. When he took over here, he wanted a massive bookcase built here. Man after my own heart there. Gorgeous fireplace. So this is just, before you get to the apartments, you could come into this area. Again, another area that's not really well visited. This is the objet d'art, and a lot of the pieces in here are religious, and there's quite a few that came from the Basilique Saint-Denis. If you go to the back of the room, you'll find, and it's been really dark lately in here. They don't have the light. I don't know if it's on purpose, but here is the scepter of Charlemagne, which I'm obsessed with this. The lily it sits on used to be white. Dates back to 1370. Was once in Saint-Denis, and it was created by Charles V, and then his son used it. His son Charles VI. But look at the details on it. It's just, Napoleon also used this. If you could see it very well. But then right over here in this case, you have the hand of justice. And those pieces laying flat go on this, and then also this piece here to the left is part of the scepter of Charlemagne. But also in this case is the crown of Napoleon. So this is known as the Couronne de Charlemagne, so Charlemagne, but this is actually the crown that Napoleon used. Had this created to match what they think Charlemagne's crown looked like. It's got all of the cameos on there, which were created from stones and shells that people had really never seen at that time, very exotic. But this is the crown that Napoleon took out of the hands of the Pope and placed on his own head. It's pretty amazing. And they used to be more of a red color. It's just faded over the centuries. But that's that. Those are the pieces you see in the top of that carved, the top of that mirror. It's just, I love it. But this is a really interesting part of the Louvre. If you take your time to go through it, you've got pieces that are carved from ivory, tapestries. This back side here also has some really gorgeous things in these cases, including this amazing chess set that was end of the 14th century, 15th century, and it's called the chess set of Sanity. But then it has even in here in these teeny tiny sculpted figurines with flowers. Some more tapestries. This is, I love the coming up here. Oh, that side's closed off today. This is because it's not as visited as part of the museum. They do close quite a bit of it off different days of the week. So the Louvre's not every single thing is open. It's supposed to be the weekend. Everything is supposed to be open, every single room, but it's rarely ever the case. This is a little salt cellar. How about that? Look at the sculpture pieces on there. You can see that very well. And then we come to another Louvre. He was kind of the master of the staircases. So he's the one who, especially in this wing, put in all these fantastic, gorgeous staircases. I always kind of think of this as the Harry Potter staircase, makes me think of, because you just have just so many details. The windows themselves, where you have kind of these, where it's like offset, and these are contemporary. Just look at, and then on the landings they have sculptures of artists, and because you go up a floor to the second floor, and that's where you have the northern school, so Dutch, Rubens, all of that. So the busts on this side, on the north side, represent the different northern artists, including Rubens and Van Eyck. Now, how about we pop outside and I'll show you kind of the view that they have from outside on the upper balconies. So right there, that is the, he used to have, he had 2 terraces. How nice is that? So that is the Pavillon Richelieu. And then of course we look down, look how quiet it is. It's about 10:30, 10:45. Gorgeous pyramid. And then you have these amazing sculptures. And I'll tell you about those in a second, but I have to order something or they get mad for you to be out here. So you have these fantastic views a little closer of the sculptures on the buildings. And I'm going to do a whole thing about the outside of the Louvre here one day soon as well. But you see these sculptures that are here. They are the 88 great men of France, and Napoleon III had these added, and all of them had died in the 18th century. There's only one of them that lived until 1804, and he specifically did this because when he added these on in like the 1860s, he did it so that he didn't have to worry about picking anybody that would be mad that, you know, why is Jacques up there and I'm not up there, or Pierre, or whoever it was. And so he picked these figures from quite a long time ago. And so you have artists, sculptors, you have members of the church. Richelieu is up here. You have playwrights like Molière, and then Jean de La Fontaine. You have a lot of amazing figures of the past. And there's 88 of them because there's 88 columns. And so if you look straight across, see where that car is. If you look from that little van straight up, in the center of it is a column, and the column goes all the way up, right up to one of the statues of the men. That is one of those amazing things about Paris that makes everything just look so gorgeous because of the symmetry and how pleasing it is to your eye. It's also pyramid cleaning day, so it was yesterday too when I walked through here when it's closed. But you can see this little thing is kind of like a Roomba. It goes up and down, up and down, up and down, cleaning. I am Pays. Fantastic pyramid. But just look at this view up here. So I just came out here and just got a bottle of water so that I could just get a view. And I've come out here before and sat out here for a couple hours. Right straight on the other side through the pyramid, that's the Dunant wing. And so in the Dunant wing, you have right out there, there's another one. There's another patio. That they used to not have coffee at this moment. Now they have some coffee machines. And one thing I noticed this morning is there's this massive camera here installed, and there's one on the other side too. So I'm guessing that's for the Olympics security, but it really isn't that busy. But we're gonna actually, after I sit out here and enjoy my water and the quiet, because it's just opened, and then I'm gonna take you out and I'll show you the other balcony. We can't go outside that one, outside the apartments, unfortunately, but we can see it from below. And it's just a beautiful, crisp little morning here in Paris. There's the Arc de Triomphe. But I love being able to get close to these. These little guys are all clean. So in 2019, they did a test on them because they would just grow, you know, green things on it and just get dirty because of the cars and pollution. And so they did a test at the end of 2019, and they were going to check 6 months later to see how the statues did, that they cleaned and then put something on, some sort of chemical on it. And lo and behold, we had COVID. So it took a little bit longer, but since then, in the last couple of years, they've cleaned every single one of them, and they look fantastic. And now they've been working on cleaning some of the other sculptures. But you can see that's the Sully wing. And then the Dunant, which is straight up behind that middle section there, is where the Mona Lisa is. So where it gets nice and busy. So now we're outside, and I just want to show you the outside view of what they have outside the minister's apartments. So this part of the Louvre that we're looking at was all done under Napoleon III. He had doubled the size, the footprint of what the Louvre is at that time before. And so in 1857, they inaugurated what they called the new Louvre, and he added that entire side over here. The Grand Gallery's on the other side, closer to the water. And so he had added all of this. You see Napoleon up there at the very top. It's the only edifice of Napoleon III in the city. He had also gone and redid this because this side of what was the original palace was the back. And so this was kind of just used as servants' quarters, or not servants' quarters, but used as for deliveries. You had houses back here up until the mid 19th century, and so this facade here was not very decorative. It was pretty boring, so he changed all this so it would match everything else. And then this part up until that little part that comes out, that was done by Napoleon Bonaparte. That was the church at one point. And then you had the rest of the Richelieu. So the Richelieu, this entire wing was built by Napoleon III, and so then they decided to put in the apartments. So when everything was inaugurated, 1857, that's when in 1858 they started to create these ministry apartments. And this part here, right under, so that middle part is the Pavillon Richelieu, and that right behind there, you can see the terrace here to the right. That was the office of the minister. And then it went over to their small private apartments, and then into what is the larger, more beautiful apartments that I just shared with you. But you could actually come out here. This is a little cafe, the Cafe Richelieu, that's open in the nicer months of the year. But it's really great. Sometimes I just go out there and get, you could only really go out there as if you're going to order something. There's a little kiosk there, and they sell like sandwiches and coffees and things like that. And you could go sit out there. Sometimes I use that as like my office. I'm just gonna go sit out here, and then you have this amazing view. Oh, there's lots of people here today, but still not as many as usual. But just right behind there was his office, and nothing in there really remains of what that originally looked like. It was all redone much later, and now it's the Angelina restaurant, where sometimes you could sit outside on this other side, but it's very hit and miss and rare that you could do that. But there you go, look at how beautiful it is. Gorgeous day. Gorgeous, gorgeous day. The Louvre is over 9 miles. If you took it apart, stretched it out, it's 9 miles of space. Must be something wrong with the sensors here if these lights are still on. They're usually, they turn off right after the sunrise. But I'm gonna take you over and show you the other side too, which is the side that would have had the view of the Tuileries. What in the world is that in the garden? Well, we're gonna go inside and see. Here we are outside. And so right behind all these windows is the theater, the small little round room that I told you about, the ceiling that has the ceiling's painted like a sky. And then you have the grand dining room. This is the Pavillon Turgot back here. So I wish we could go out there, but this was a perfect place because at one point, the time the ministry was there, at the very end of these buildings was the Tuileries. So stretching from across the front. And if you have watched my videos for years and years or followed me on Instagram, I've talked about the Tuileries a lot, but I really want to do some more research and share that with you, but it's also hard because it's not here, so there's not a lot for me to share about to show you. But I would have stretched across here, and so the Emperor Napoleon III could go from the Tuileries in through these rooms and come over here to the Ministry of State. Up above here you do have this is the Pavillon de Rouen, and that is, you see the ends on there, but this part actually was done under Louis XVIII. That's all he did. So they've just cleaned all of this. Behind here is the Musée des Arts Décoratifs at the end. So when we say that's in the Louvre, it's actually what we would actually call the Palais de Louvre. And then you have the carousel entrance below. You have the LN there between the two columns. That's for Louis Napoleon, which is Napoleon III. And then up behind there, if you zoom in, you can see the little bees and the ends high above here. But I'm going to do another video one of these days around the outside and kind of giving you all of the little secrets about the outside, the facade of the Louvre, that kind of could tell you who did what. And there's of course the Arc and the Eiffel Tower. It's a little later in the day than when I first went in and recorded, so it's a little bit busier. But I had lunch, one of my favorite places, where I said I won't see you for 10 days, and they said, oh, you just take the metro. But they were also complaining about the fact that there's just not a lot of people here right now. And so this was supposed to be this, major, huge coup for the city. And, everybody thought, and businesses thought, that this would just basically be this massive influx of money. And, everybody, all the Parisians wanted to rent their apartments. And most of the ones that I know, they never got that, they never were booked. So they are leaving Paris, and their apartments are sitting vacant. Everybody thought they were going to make all this money, and that's not the case. But this is also kind of the first Olympics in a long time that's in the middle of a city. Usually you have these massive stadiums outside the city, but this is the first time some of these games are actually, and events are actually happening within the city. So that makes it a lot different than most of the time. So it's interesting. But today, I'm doing this on Wednesday, and today the mayor, Madame Hidalgo, she did actually go into the Seine. This was her big promise. It's been pushed off weeks and weeks, and she was supposed to originally do it a couple months ago, but she actually did it today. While I was having lunch, I saw the videos on Instagram, and I was sharing it with all the guys at Nemours, and we were all laughing that she finally did it. But we'll see if she grows another ear or, arm, or has dysentery for a week. I would not go into that. But here you go. Thank you guys so much for joining me. And I will see you next week, bringing you something from the left bank, since I can't really go anywhere else unless I take the metro, of course, which the boys reminded me of. But I like to walk, so it's kind of difficult. It's gonna be difficult to get around, but I'm actually kind of excited to buckle down and get some stuff done. So I will see you guys. Make sure you listen to the episode tomorrow on the podcast. I'm going to share more details and then have a lot of photos. So some of the stuff where we can't get it zoomed in on, I will have that on my website. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much.